Hello my cuties and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Noemi. I am the creator behind n.r.b crafts. So we are going to jump right into this video. And this video is going to be more of a kind of like fix it video, if that makes any sense. So when I originally epoxied this mug, I had an uneven bottom. So I am going to show you how I fixed that in this video. So I am starting off with using some Mod Podge on my already sanded and spray painted tumbler, and I always forget the name of this. I think it's just like a ivory spray paint from Rust-Oleum. I honestly forget what color it's called, like on the can. But yeah, we are going to glitter this in the color Ice Chips from the Glitter Pharmacy, and we are going to also glitter that handle. If you have not seen my neon stripes video, I go in a little bit more into detail of how I glitter and epoxy the handle. So I am going to just sprinkle the glitter all over of this tumbler, and after I let this dry, I am going to knock off any excess glitter and then go in with another coat of glitter, just because I thought it was really light on the first one. And let me tell you, this glitter is absolutely gorgeous under epoxy. I love the fact that it has iridescent, like chunky bits, and it has that green, like turquoise type of look or color. And I am one of those girls that loves darker colors. So I like turquoise, burgundy, like just those like heavier, darker colors. I'm just like really into those. So yeah, and with a colored background on the mug, I thought it would make it a little bit darker. So that is why one of the reasons why I chose to do a colored background. The second reason is because, well, I didn't want to pull out my airbrush and clean it just for one mug. So yeah, that's probably why. So yeah, after I knocked off any of the glitter, I went in with a second coat, and then I went in with approximately, I believe it was like 50 milliliters of epoxy. This is a 40-ounce camper mug from Craft Haven. And I've had this mug for the longest time, not necessarily knowing what to do with it, as as it happens a lot with me. I just, yeah, sometimes I get cups and I don't know what to do or what to put on them. I'll get ideas, and then that idea won't turn out how I want it or how I envisioned. But luckily, it didn't have any epoxy on it. So my original idea, I just kind of, you know, um, I just kind of got the Mod Podge wet with the glitter and scraped it off. So if it were epoxied, obviously I would have stripped the whole tumbler in order to do this project, which reminds me I need to strip a couple tumblers. And if you guys want to see how I do that, let me know in the comments, and I will make a video on how to remove already dried epoxy from your mugs. I don't necessarily do it a lot because I usually like um, how my tumblers turn out. So I do have a couple that one is my sister's that she broke because it was banged up against a very hard surface. So I have to remove the epoxy and the glitter and everything, that went into that and remake it. So if you guys are interested, let me know and I will make a video. Um, so yeah, here's that second layer of glitter, and I am going to also clean my edges on the top so that I don't have any pokey bits because of the chunky glitter. Um, with chunky glitter, it is a little bit difficult, and you are prone to get more like little pokey bits after you epoxy because of the fact that it's chunky. Um, I forgot to roll this in parchment paper, so it's partially my fault. And if you look in some of my previous videos, I know I went into detail with how to lay down flat your chunky glitter with a piece of parchment paper. I believe it was the hand painted tumbler that I did that has that in it, that explanation in it. So yeah, I just forgot to do it here, and obviously I would have done it if I would have remembered. Um, so yeah, we are just going to finish applying that second coat and then apply our 50 milliliters of epoxy. And as I repeated in my last video, I usually go 10 milliliters above whatever ounces I have. Since it is cold right now, I do try to epoxy 4 tumblers at a time. So usually I will measure out whatever like measurements I'll have. So if I have like 250 or two 40-ounce tumblers, I'll mix 100 and go from there, like depending on how many cups I have on my turners. So that's usually just a rule of thumb that I follow, and it has worked out pretty well for me because I usually will have a little bit left over, which is okay because then I can just put the leftover epoxy into a mold and then make keychains or use it for like notebook pieces or just different random pieces that I want to make with the molds that I have. So I do have a couple more projects coming with molds, so I am really excited about those because, I mean, it's an awesome way to use any leftover epoxy that you might have. So, yeah. After I epoxy this, I am going to go in with a craft knife on the edges of the tumbler on the top, and I am going to scrape off any excess epoxy that I might have, any pokey bits like I said, and also just clean up my edges and sand it down so that I can have a good seal when I do my next layer of epoxy. Alright, so that first layer of epoxy, I noticed I still had a lot of like pieces of glitter that were poking out. So I did end up going in with a second layer of epoxy, and now I am going in with my sanding. And this is where I noticed I had a bump on the bottom of my tumbler. It was most likely caused because I did not level it correctly when I went to epoxy it. So, not to worry, we are just going to sand off any of the pokey bits of the glitter, of the chunky glitter that is popping up. And with those 2 layers of epoxy, that is going to ensure that we have a less likely chance of sanding over that glitter, and it won't turn a yucky, ugly color. So, here I am going in with my X-Acto knife and just kind of running it over my tumbler to remove any of the epoxy that could have gone into my tumbler. So I am going to do this first, and then I am going to go in with my 80 grit sanding block, and I'm going to go in probably at a 45-degree angle so that I can create a little bit of a stainless steel rim on the very top of my tumbler so that I can create a good seal and my epoxy and my glitter, like when I go to wash my tumbler, won't have any water seeping in, so I won't get any mold in those areas. So I am also going to remove any of the epoxy that could have gone inside of the tumbler, not just on the rim. Sometimes when we epoxy, as you know, it could go into the inside of the tumbler, and that is okay. Just cut it out carefully with your X-Acto knife. And then obviously, once you are finished with that, you are going to wash your tumbler. So here I am. I'm just going in at about a 45-degree angle, and knocking off some of that epoxy and the glitter and the spray paint, just enough to create that little rim, that little lip, so that you have a good seal when you go to epoxy it again. So I am going to speed this up a little so that you guys won't get completely bored of just watching me look at and just seeing where I need to sand it even further. Alright, so once I was finished with the sanding, I kind of went out of order and I just kind of started drawing on my tumbler with my white acrylic marker. If you know me, I am kind of a perfectionist, so yeah, I kind of went in with these flowers like a bazillion times. I used some acetone and some rubbing alcohol to clean up any mess that I may have. Well, not mess, but like any mistakes that I thought I was making or that I did make. Yeah, when it comes to like drawing or painting or stuff like that, I am really hard on myself. So, um, I am just speeding through this so that you guys don't have to see like every single thing that I'm doing. Um, I did draw all around the tumbler. So my first thought on how I wanted this tumbler was just doing like little flowers just in the middle, but I kind of didn't proportion of my flowers correctly. So some of them came out bigger, some of them came out smaller, but that's okay because we are learning to accept our mistakes here. So I just kind of went with the flow, and I wanted that glitter to really pop so That's why I didn't use any paint or anything, and I just went directly in with my acrylic marker. So some of these flowers I used some pictures as reference, others I just freehanded them, and I just kind of tried to go with the flow. And honestly, I should have done all of this after I fixed the bottom of my tumbler, but for some odd reason, my brain was just on autopilot and just kind of went with the flow. And I just kind of went with the marker and just started going in, drawing the flowers and the vines and the little berry branch thingy mabobber jigger that I did right there. um, so yeah, I just kind of did that, and I wasn't necessarily sure if I wanted to draw all of the flowers, like all the way around the tumbler. That was my original idea, and I actually ended up going through with it, but it wasn't just like small little flowers at the end of it in the middle like I had originally planned to do with this tumbler. So, yeah, I just kind of went with the flow after that, and I am in love with how this tumbler turned out. So, as you can see there, like on the little areas that I didn't have to sand anything down, that glitter has like some chunky iridescent pieces, which is looking amazing through that, and that is also why I chose to just leave it as is, like just with the acrylic marker and no paint. I was actually debating on whether or not I should paint it or not, but I am so happy that I went in and I just did the florals on this and not paint all of it. So now we are getting into fixing our little mistake that I did. So this is a Dremel with a little sandpaper bit thingy. I don't know what they're called. But when you have an uneven tumbler, I like to go in very, very carefully, and please make sure you are using your proper PPE and all of that fun stuff, your goggles, respirator, and whatnot, because this is resin dust. So it is, um, like if you get it in your eye, it could affect your eye because it could be, very dangerous. So I did have some goggles and my respirator on so that I wouldn't be breathing in any of that resin dust. So here I am just kind of going in with a very, very light hand and making sure that I don't put a lot of pressure on that specific area where I am um, sanding down the little bump to level out my tumbler, just because in the past when I have done this, I have actually sanded through my layer of epoxy and got like sanded to the glitter. So I have learned from my mistake, and take it from me, you want a very light hand when you are doing this. And after I finish this, I am going to go in with another 50 milliliters of epoxy. Obviously, I am going to clean off any of the resin dust that I have from the tumbler before applying my epoxy. And I am just going to finish this off, clean my tumbler, and then go in with another 50 milliliters of epoxy. So I hope you guys learned how to level out your tumblers a little. I did use a level to make sure that it was completely leveled, and I placed it on my table so that I could check if it wiggled or not. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will answer as soon as possible and to the best of my knowledge. I will see you guys on Wednesday with another video, and I hope you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye!